time is the ultimate level. So
and I think governments can help in terms of facilitating.
There is a need, there is a
We
need.
are also exploring into that. There was a proposal of doing that, but at the highest level, that proposal was also not approved. So because of this reason only.
My job was to keep time, so it's 12:30. I end the session unless you have a very specific question for the session.
No, it's fine.
Fine, sure. But there is a turnaround time of 5 minutes before the next session starts. 12:35.
We'll start immediately.
Please do. Over to you.
Okay, so thank you so much, all the panelists. And
Thank you, ma'am.
now we start the new session. In this, we have Dr. Chandrasekhar from IIT Tirupati, and we have Dr. Bhubaneswar from IIT Delhi, and then we have Nitish Nigam from CIM, Chandragupta Institute of Management, Patna, and we have Naram Nishikant, Nishikant from Just Transition Center, IIT Kanpur. So, yeah, now Dr. Chandrasekhar can start his presentation.
So, am I audible?
No, you take the mic better. You want to show some slides? You can come.
I have prepared, but I will not explain it.
So anyway, most of you are talking about energy transition for last 1.5 days, and what I heard that okay, you are basically talking about supply side, about the thermal power, supply of renewable energy sources, as well as okay, how to carbon pricing, talking about industrial use of the energy sources. So I think one slide I've seen from the Ashok Srinivasan that he was talking about the demand side management as well as the household energy. So what I'm going to talk about the household energy transition. Okay, how the household can be transition from energy transition will happen in the household sector, but mostly from the demand side management, because one side we're talking about okay, down the line 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, and this many number of households are likely to get electricity, and this is the demand from the electricity, because now the households have started buying different kind of household gadgets or appliances, so electricity demand will increase further. So we are talking about that, okay, how much energy they need in 2050 or 2100, how to meet those requirements, provide the 2027 electricity to the various households given that demand. So where did it come from, whether it's renewable and non-renewable. But I'm not going to talk on that technological solutions or the where to get it, but how to reduce the demand. Okay, how we can convince or motivate the households to use less amount of energy than they are basically using it. So I'm going to talk on mostly energy transition, because when it talks about the pricing electricity, okay, when you start going by the economic theory, we say that okay, let us price the electricity. Suppose you increase the electricity price, and it will basically decline the use of electricity going by the elasticity of demand. Okay, but whether government can increase the price. Okay, you can fix a price. As economist, I can fix a price, put in that externality cost, what is the externality cost of the electricity use, and put that as a tax to the people are using whatever the methodology I have, whether the government can do that. Government can increase the price. Okay, given a democratic country we have, and we have lots of freebies. So that's why that we have to think of in other ways. And the second that we have technologies. So most of you talking about the technologies, the hydrogen, green hydrogen, because people already talk about the solar and EV. Okay, when all the technologies are there, but we're not talking about what is the adoption rate. Okay, the less number of people actually adopting those technologies. Means that only technology, availability of technology cannot solve the entire problem. Okay, yes, you will have a technology, but it cannot solve the entire problem. And the second is, okay, yes, the technology might be there, people may adopt it. Okay, it also may not solve the entire problem, as long as you're not looking at the beyond dimensions of it. Okay, so let me take you one example which World Bank did in Mexico. Okay, the Mexico World Bank actually planned to replace in 2008, 9 and 10. So they replaces air conditioner and refrigerator for millions of households. Okay, they ask the households, you come up with an old refrigerator and air conditioner which could be low efficient, and we'll give you the new refrigerator and air conditioner which could be high efficient. Okay, so they have also calculated their cost benefit analysis. They know that, okay, suppose the people are given the high efficient home appliances, it consumes the less energy. So that in terms of energy cost, they calculate, okay, what is the benefit to us and how much cost basically now we're spending giving them a new refrigerator and air conditioner. Okay, but after 1 year when they calculated that, okay, how much energy basically the households are using, in case of refrigerator, in case of air conditioner, there's no saving of energy. Okay, you can call it the energy efficiency cost because when the households are there using for 4 hours air conditioner, so now they got a more energy efficient technology, now they started using for 8 hours and 9 hours. Okay, so they're not saving energy. Okay, and similar for the refrigerator, but there is slightly saving of energy because earlier they're using for 24 hours, now they're using for 24 hours. So there is a slightly change of energy. Okay, so it means that technology cannot solve all the problems. Yes, technology is required. I'm not telling that we don't need the technology. Technology is required. Efficient technology is required. But we need to think of that, okay, what is the alternative? I mean, that's not the only solution. We need to think of all other complementary mechanisms so that we can achieve the target. Okay, so we have done some survey both in Bhubaneswar city as well as Bangalore. So how much time do I have? Amarendra?
10 to 12.
How much time do I have? Another 6-7 minutes?
Okay, so yeah, till 5 minutes.
Okay. So, okay. So I am drawing from my some of my papers which are already published, and also one paper is yet to get published, which is final stage, and 2 papers which I am writing based on my our survey with my students in Bhubaneswar as well as the Bangalore city. So I'm not going to talk about the energy demand, so we will keeping some times, but I'm going to talk about that, okay, when people make their choices about the energy, like energy efficient technology or any, like someone was talking about that EV vehicle, we are telling that, okay, the life, when people are calculating the life cycle cost, which will be much cheaper, but people are not calculating it, and when they're making the purchase decisions. Okay, so basically, it's all about that implicitly discounted because you have immediately upfront cost. Okay, in economics, you have immediate upfront cost, and what will happen that you don't calculate that. Okay, that's basically we call it that the implicitly discount rate. That basically the rate at which individual households value current and future savings in terms of trade-off between future energy saving and upfront cost at the time of the purchase. Okay, so how people give the implicitly discounted, how people are calculating the implicit. I don't know how other people are calculating because in our survey, around 10-20% people are not willing to, because we have used the kind of choice modeling approach or basically collect the information about the implicit discount rate, how much people are willing to pay. So basically when the implicit discount rate is mostly higher than the your rate of interest in the market, okay, higher than the rate of interest in the market, so then basically you look for a less energy efficient technologies. You look at, okay, I'll invest on the less energy efficient technology. But if it is lesser than your rate of interest, you'll basically invest on the high energy efficient technologies. So as I told you that Pigobian tax is one of the options, but it's actually given a democratic country, so it's difficult to implement those things. Because let me take you another example about that. Okay, there are also different kind of things when people make a choice about the appliances or energy efficient or the EV or the solar. So the one thing that they're having the inattention bias, because someone can tell you, okay, this is benefited, in the next 5 years you're going to save 5,000 rupees, suppose you make additional 3,000 rupees upfront cost, so which you can say that. Okay, but there is an inattention bias that, okay, when the people go and market and purchase or make the decision about these technologies, so whether they can calculate, okay, they do all kinds of cost, different kinds of cost are there, when they calculate, because when you ask the households in Bhubaneswar city, whether you understand the energy levels, the star ratings mentioned in that refrigerator air conditioner, half of the household don't know, we don't understand the star ratings. In Bangalore, when I asked that, okay, what makes you to purchase the air conditioner refrigerator? Brand and price, rather than the energy efficiency and the star rating. That was the third choice. I purchased it because I like this brand, and I like the price. Okay, that's why I purchase it. Okay, so that's an inattention bias. Okay, like people are not able to calculate those things, and there is also status quo bias that okay they want to stay with that. Maybe there's like EB, I can shift to EB, but so like Amarendra told, okay, I'm still waiting for my friend to recommend me. Whether I learn from my friend, then I decide it. Suppose as long as his friend is not telling him, so suppose he wants to buy another vehicle, two-wheeler, see he'll definitely go for the vehicle he's having. That's a status quo bias. He doesn't believe that okay whether it will change, but still he's waiting that okay whether I'll get any suggestions from my friend. Okay, so people move to that only, that which they have. Okay, so they'll be okay, let me buy this one because which I've already experienced and I know what is the positive side of it and negative side, let me stick to that one only. And let me just talk about the knowledge approach, which is basically now recently the behavioral economics people are applying in different fields, including the energy. Also, where basically it's a low cost implementation approach. It's a basically low cost because you don't increase the tax or you're not giving incentives, a subsidy. We're talking about subsidies and incentives. I don't know whether it's feasible to incentivize everyone, but they provide subsidies everyone. It's a kind of huge amount of cost to the state government and central government. Okay, even because we find that okay, Ramkrishnan find in Gujarat, so subsidizing people to use less amount of groundwater. Okay, incentivizing. So you are basically incentivizing people that okay, suppose you use the groundwater below this threshold value, I will give you some rupees, 750 rupees or 1000 rupees per month. But he found that people are not doing that. People are using the same amount of groundwater. We don't know whether the incentive will work or not. Similarly, the guy, Anand Sudarshan from Chicago School, he was doing in Delhi, that okay, suppose you use the electricity before this threshold value, because based on the meter unit, suppose you use the electricity before this threshold value which he decided, that okay, I'll give you 750 rupees per month. Okay, suppose your electricity unit is below this value. So that also did not work in Delhi, because he was doing with the all IT jobby people. All are from IT, not from the slots. Okay, all are people, all the guys were basically employed in IT. Okay, that did not work with them. So there are also other ways they're looking at okay how we can nudge the people to change their behavior. So there are study by that okay 38 natural experiments they did. So they found that okay real interventions reduce energy consumption by 35 to 55%. So I'll just, given the paucity of time, I'll just give one example by people in USA, by Mulayanath, and some of you might be knowing Sandil Mulayanath and Alcott. So what they have done, like we have Tata Power in city of Bhubaneswar and other places in India. So USA they have O Power. So what they have done, they want to reduce the objective is to reduce the electricity consumption at the household level. So what they have done, so basically they when you get the electricity bill, what is written, it is written the meter unit and the price. So you will not get any other information. So what they have done, so they have provided you how much unit you consume, how much unit is consumed by your immediate neighborhood, two neighborhood, and how much unit is consumed by on an average 10 immediate neighborhood. Okay, suppose your unit consumption, meter unit consumption is higher than the average consumed by the 10 immediate neighborhoods. Okay, so there will be a kind of ugly picture that okay, you are not an environmental friendly guy, you are consuming more. Okay, suppose you are consuming less than your average 10 households, which is basically neighborhood. So basically like a happy cartoon that okay, you are a nice guy, you are more environmental friendly. Okay, it's no cost involved. I'll take 2 minutes. Okay, no cost is involved. So what happened that by doing that, and there's some tips that okay, how can we reduce the electricity consumption? By doing that, they found that over the years, over the time, so people start reducing and using less amount of electricity. See, there is no incentive, no subsidy, but you can change the behavior. Okay, and so let me go back to my own things. So what basically we have found that okay, half of the households, okay, in Bangalore city, out of the 500 households, around less than 50% of them 5-star rating refrigerator air conditioner. Less than 50%. I mean, when I ask them, okay, why you choose this, why you buy this kind of refrigerator and air conditioner, the mostly the brand and price is the major factor rather than the your star rating. And so mostly we're talking about okay, what factors generally influence you that okay to buy this, make these decisions. So you found that suppose you inform them internality cost as well as the externality in terms of cost in addition to the basically putting the star rating in addition to star rating. Suppose you put that in a cost value, internality cost or the externality values, rupee terms, that might change their behaviors to some extent. So in the city of Bhubaneswar, so when we have done a survey basically in the 500 households in Bhubaneswar, so which basically we have found that okay, there are less number of households, maybe less than 50% of them, or not less than 50, even 40% of them has 5-star rating air conditioner and refrigerator. Okay, and so how many of them understand the star rating? Okay, so I think it's around 50%. 50% households told that okay, we understand the star rating mentioned in the air conditioner, refrigerator, or the TV. And in case of TV and washing machine, I think 50% have told us that they don't know which star rating or instrument or basically home appliance is. But they should, yeah, okay. Just the last one, I just want to say that. So understanding the energy level information or some kind of, when those guys are having some kind of compliance to the environment, so those are basically buying the high energy efficient appliances are also reducing, basically giving the low discount rate value, the implicit discount rate, which is basically required for the energy transition. Okay, basically thinking that okay, people adopt the energy efficient technologies because which will have.
Okay, thank you so much, Chandra. Right, Dr. Bhubaneswar from IIT Delhi. You can use it for use. Okay. Researcher.
Hello everyone. So minor correction, I'm not from DST CPR at IIT Delhi School of Public Policy.
Yeah.
There is no DST CPR at IIT Delhi. IIT
Delhi.
Yeah, School of
They
Public
also have a
Policy.
Center for Policies.
Yeah. So the theme of this panel is empirical evidences on policies, what works and what doesn't. So I'm going to be using some examples from my case studies, ongoing studies and some of the published work to understand why policies, energy policies and policies in energy transition sometimes work and sometimes they don't work. So I've divided the talk into two aspects of policy making, implementation and policy formulation. So let's talk about implementation first. I mean, why sometimes policy implementation doesn't work. So first thing I noticed is sometimes there is a weakness in policy design, which leads to suboptimal outcomes. So I'm doing this study on solar pumps deployment in Haryana state, and I went to this district in Charkhi Dadri. Now there is the problem of electricity. Farmers are not getting regular electricity supply. There is a problem of interruption, and the voltage is also low. They need about 350 to 400 volts, and currently they are getting 200 to 250 volts, which leads to problems in irrigation, which leads to damaging of their motors. So the bottom line is they need solar pumps. Now the question is, government is providing subsidy till 10 HP solar pumps, not above that because it's going to be too expensive. But in this district, the groundwater is already depleted. They need at least 17.5 to 20 horsepower. And I met 3 farmers there who bought solar pumps, 10 HP, but they are not using it because it's not viable. And in another district, Sonipat, the groundwater is okay. I mean, the level is good, so 10 HP horsepower will do. So the thing is that, there has to be more nuanced kind of approach to policy design when you are making policies, because otherwise these kind of spatial injustice can happen. Another example from my study on rooftop solar, which I did in Delhi, was that here also we can see some aspects were missed in policy design. So if you look at solar rooftop in Delhi, most of the installations are in industrial or commercial establishment, very less in residential. So the thing is, there is subsidy on electricity in Delhi. So depending on the region, between 50 to 80% of people don't pay electricity bills in Delhi because they are consuming less than 400 units. So there is no incentive for them to adopt solar. So this was the kind of problem which me and my co-author at that time in BScs JustCom, we were trying to solve. Like, what policy designs can help in rectifying this? So what we suggested was that there can be community solar, virtual net metering approach, and we suggested some kind of RESCO model in which a third party can install solar panels in these regions, and it can have a tie-up with the DISCOM, so the DISCOM will pay. So it's kind of RESCO model, a modified version of DISCOM model. Another option we suggested was that DISCOM itself can install solar panels in such areas. Some of the inputs were incorporated in Delhi Draft Solar Policy 2022. So this is another example where in policy design some aspects were overlooked. Now another factor which can lead to policy problems in policy implementation is technology cost and lack of finance. Again, in my rooftop solar study, I noticed even after subsidy, technology cost was a bit high, and there were no viable financing options. In fact, I talked to one of the respondents, and he said solar panels were, put under home decoration category, and banks were not willing to finance solar panels. So that was one aspect, because if there is technology cost is prohibitive and there are no financing options, implementation won't work. Another is lack of awareness and bureaucratic activism. This example is again from solar rooftop. Vendors mostly complained that government was not doing enough to promote solar in Delhi. Another was this red tapeism in subsidy disbursement process. So the subsidy disbursement first comes to consumer from vendor, then they are compensated by the government. And many vendors complain it takes 4 to 5 months, this disbursement process. Why not directly give to consumers? So this is another example, bureaucratic activism where in policy design, where implementation won't work. And lastly, resistance and opposition. Not every problem in policy implementation is technical and can be just addressed through policy design. So let's talk about politics, and opposition and resistance. If you look at the problems solar parks are having in India, Charanka, Badla, and Pavagada to some extent, you will notice there are delays, and sometimes the target which is envisaged is not achieved because there is ground level opposition, there is ground level resistance, people are not willing to sell that. I mean, one can suggest there can be community participation in the policy making, but again, I'm a little bit skeptical if that can solve all the problems. The thing is, in Pavagada, there was this lease model that was, introduced, where the land was not bought, but it was leased. But then again, I was talking to environmental journalists there, how this lease model came into the picture. There were a lot of factors involved, and why it cannot be replicated at other places, another is a story. But the point is that implementation can be hindered by political opposition too. Opposition, not political, but opposition from down. Another instance from my studies, I was trying to understand this interaction between manufacturing and deployment in the context of solar. So what happened was that I was studying this, the government of India has adopted two goals in case of solar. They want rapid, cheap deployment, and they also want to develop indigenous manufacturing. So for deployment, they have adopted ambitious targets. Now I think it's 450 gigawatts and all that. And they also want to develop, indigenous manufacturing and industries. So when I was talking to developers and manufacturers, I noticed that whenever government introduced this kind of policy of putting import duties, safeguard duties on cheap solar imports, they were opposed by solar developers organizations. They lobbied the government, like this organization, National Solar Energy Federation of India, Solar Power Developers Association, they strongly oppose this move. And government has been going to and fro on this import duties. They adopted for 2 years, then abandoned it, adopted for another 1 year, abandoned it. I think lastly, this import duty was cut from 40 to 20% to address the shortfall in local output. So that is another reason why policy implementation doesn't work. So in summary, it may not work because of faulty policy design, technology costs in finance, lack of awareness, bureaucratic activism, and political resistance. Now coming to formulation. So I was doing this study on understanding the alternative fuels landscape in India's transportation sector. Now, if you look at before 2002, we just had one fuel, petrol, diesel, liquid fossil fuel, and mainly we just had one goal, energy security, matching the supply and demand. In 2002, ethanol blending program was launched, CNG was adopted in Delhi. Now, in these last 20 years, government is aggressively promoting 5 different fuels in the transportation sectors. There is bioethanol, there is methanol, there is green hydrogen, there is EV, and there is bio-CNG. Thing is, of course, we need a diversity of fuels. Everybody agrees on that. But there are distinctive challenges in policy formulation and governance in such a scenario. This is quite unprecedented. So, if you look at the policy objectives, we have multiple policy objectives. We want to achieve energy security, energy independence. We have short-term sustainability goals like air pollution. We have long-term sustainability goals like net zero. And we also want to develop indigenous industries in electric vehicle and green hydrogen. So there are multiple objectives, there are multiple fuels, and there are different values operating. And if I can put this in perspective of investment, you need about 148 trillion rupees to achieve EV targets by 2030. You need 445 billion rupees to achieve our ethanol blending goal, 20% by 2025. You need 2 trillion to achieve our bio-CNG goals by 2025, like 5,000 bio-CNG plants. And you need 197 billion rupees for national green hydrogen, and government has established a methanol economy fund of 50 billion. So the thing is, this much investment, these many multiple fuel options, all these objectives and values, this creates unique governance challenges. And there are 3 I noticed. First is you need to have intersectoral coordination at systemic level. I was talking to ministry officials from heavy industries, petroleum, natural gas, GAIL, HPCL, BPCL, and some of them pointed out that energy transition governance in India is pretty fragmented. There are different departments, ministries, they have their different goals, different objectives, obligations, and there is no unified, coherent vision to weave these coherent goals in one kind of one strategic vision. So that is one thing, intersectoral coordination. Second is this balance between policy neutrality and policy, specificity. Whenever there are multiple technology options, the literature says government should avoid picking up any technology winners. Let the market decide it. But it's not going to happen in this case because we are driven by imperative of sustainability. Government has to play a role. In fact, I was talking to one of the respondents for this study, a think tank respondent, and she very articulately put it that what government is doing is that it is throwing everything on the wall and see what sticks. So they are promoting EV, CNG, hydrogen, let's see what works out. So there is a lack of strategic policy vision. That is the second challenge. Third related is the role of gas in India's energy transition. Now I don't know why nobody's talking about it, because I think it's a pretty serious challenge. If you look at a document by Government of India, long-term low-emission development strategy, the government says gas is a transition fuel, but there is no clarity on how we are going to transition away from gas. So as we speak, Ministry of Petroleum Natural Gas is spending hundreds of crores of rupees in expanding gas infrastructure, which will take about 30-35 years, to recuperate that cost. And this may lead to sunk investment, but there is very little clarity even in Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas about how to transition away from gas. I think I just read one report in CEW, which they said that gas should be capped at 18%. That is the optimal value. Less than that, you're not leveraging gas fully. More than that, lock in. But again, the question is how to cap it at 18%. And there's going to be competition between EV and CNG. I was talking to someone in Ministry of Heavy Industry. They recognized this problem. They said this is the puzzle we haven't still solved and we don't know what to do. So these are the 3 challenges. So what I'm suggesting here is you need the old policy formulation paradigm won't work, where you had clear, structured problems, and linear policy making process. Here it's very messy, very complex. So in this paper, what I suggested was that you need to have a new, more reflexive governance and policy formulation in which you have to first understand the linkages between technology, values, and objectives. Not every option can help you achieve all the objectives. So you need to understand these, relationship between technology, values, and policy objectives. Once you understand this, there has to be a wide stakeholder consultation to have a strategic, coherent vision for India's energy transition. That is not there. This is going to be a political process. There will be winners and losers. You cannot align everybody's objective and interest. So that is going to be a process of compromise and negotiation. Third is, because it's a long-term process, so this vision will need to be recalibrated, because technology, values, and everything else will change with time. So you need to go back to this vision and recalibrate it. So I think I've suggested this 3-step process. And lastly, another thing I want to highlight that why policy formulation doesn't work is India needs a green industrial policy. In energy transition and sustainability transitions in general, role of state has to be imperative. It cannot be market driven. So I think green industrial policy is kind of making a comeback now in scholarly literature. But unfortunately, it is almost completely missing from India's public policy discourse. We're not talking about green industrial policy. I think only through green industrial policy we can, we can hope to align our transition vision with the industrial goals, like people mentioned their employment and all the other things. So I think green industrial policy is the need of the hour. So again, in conclusion, I would just say that India's energy transition is facing multiple policy challenges, and from my perspective, there is a need to move beyond more or less technocratic approach and to just adopt a bit integrated and interdisciplinary approach to understand the problems that is plaguing the sector. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Rajeshwar. Pointing out issues in policy making. Okay, now we'll move to Nitish Nigam, CIM partner, and his co-author Dr. Shivanand Samanta that he is joining online. So Nitish is going to make the presentation. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I am Nitish from Chandragupta Institute of Management, Patna, Bihar. So this is a joint work with my PhD advisors, Professor Sivananda Senapati and Professor Devrito Samanta. So I am thankful to NISER for this opportunity to present our work. So I will be presenting the brief summary or what we have derived or what are the policy suggestions that we can make for energy transition through electric vehicle adoption in the eastern India, particularly with an emphasis on Bihar. So I will discuss my slides into 4 parts. First we will discuss about the problem or context. Then we will discuss about this problem from the theoretical perspective and the rationale for the policy, why there is a need for policy. Then further we will discuss what are the global policy examples that has been taken to promote electric vehicle adoption. Then from Indian perspective, and then particularly in the context of Bihar, that Bihar has recently notified their policy on 5th of December only. So this is the sectoral greenhouse gas emission. So here we can see that like the transport sector, that is the context of my discussion, is contributing significantly, that is around 15% of the total emission. So in this context, government is promoting the adoption of electric vehicle as a promising alternative to that or conventional vehicles that is being powered solely by the fossil fuels. So EV, there are several initiatives and campaign has been started worldwide. So one of that campaign being started by Clean Energy Ministerial, that is EV 30 by 30. So India is also part of that campaign. Like India is also targeting to achieve 30% market share in new energy vehicles as a part of newly registered vehicle by year 2020, that is currently around 6.93%. So government to achieve those targets, government has started investing in the electrification of transport, and that has surpassed over 425 billion US dollar in 2022, and has seen a substantial increase of 50% as compared to the previous year. So basically this investment focuses on development of charging infrastructure development, subsidies for consumers as well as producers, innovation incentives, regulatory measures like free parking or green license plate. But however, we see that there is the limited adoption of electric vehicles, particularly in the context of developing nations. Like the market share of the electric vehicle, that like around 85% of market share is being dominated by only 3 regions, that is United States, China and Europe. So there is a limited adoption of electric vehicle in developing nations where energy and environmental problems are growing day by day. So Government of India has also taken several policy measures that has been started since with the implementation of NEPP in 2011, and several policy measures has also taken at sub-regional levels. But currently the market share for electric vehicle in India is 6.39%. So this is the trend of the GHG emission. So what is the theoretical foundation? Why there is a need for the electric vehicle policy? So first, there is emission from electric vehicle that creates the negative externality. So that the burden is not only borne by the emitter, that is being borne by the society as well. And further, as discussed earlier as well, there is a imperfect information about electric vehicle. There is lot of misconception or misperception among the consumers, and next there is a market spillover between the charging infrastructure and the market presence of the electric vehicle. So what does it mean? When we are talking about the charging infrastructure development, so any private player will intervene or will develop a charging infrastructure only when there is a substantial presence of electric vehicle on the road. While the presence of road or the adoption of electric vehicle depends on the presence of charging infrastructure in the city or in the country. So there is a market spillover between both. Many authors call it as chicken and egg paradox. So there is a market failure due to that. Then to address that market failure, there is a need for policy intervention that could be taken through both market and non-market measures. Market measures could be the tax and subsidies, investment to research and development. So other one is the environmental innovation, then the emission standards. So this is the market scenario, global EV market. So I am presenting the share of newly registered cars across these nations. In India, that is very low in comparison to world, and China is leading the market in year 2022. So next, what are the global policies that has been taken and what are the focuses of these policies? So government have focuses through regulatory measures, economic perspective, persuasive, and from organizational perspective. In United Kingdom and Germany, there are regulatory and governance factors, infrastructure developments like the development of the charging infrastructure, or there is provision of charging infrastructure in the apartments of the homes and so on. So in line with this, Government of India has also started promoting the adoption of electric vehicles. So the very first step was the National Council for Electric Mobility mission that was being introduced in 2011. Further, in line with that, the National Electric Mobility Mission Plan was launched in 2013. Then further to promote the adoption of the electric vehicle, basically so government has implemented FAME scheme. So that has implemented through demand creation, technology platform for hybrid or electric technology ecosystem, execution of pilot projects, and development of charging infrastructures. Further, Government of India has launched the FAME 2 scheme that aims to particularly empower the quicker adoption of the electric vehicle. That is more this FAME 2 scheme is more focusing on the adoption of electric vehicle through consumers perspective. So financial incentives in the form of capital subsidies and tax reimbursement exemptions and concessions, setting up charging infrastructure. Further, like we have summarized the what are the basic policy focus of the sub-national policies. Like in line with the FAME scheme, several states of India has implemented the electric vehicle policy. Like till date, if I am not wrong, 28 states and union territories has implemented the electric vehicle policies. So basically these policies are focusing on the financial incentives, like financial incentives for both consumers and producers, like capital subsidy to and electricity duty exemptions to producers. Then non-financial incentives like green license plate. There is a provision for green license plate so that one can signal their purchase. Like earlier sir was talking about the behavioral factors, like what are the behavioral factors that can impact the adoption of the electric vehicle. So there is one like signaling their sustainable behavior. So government is also promoting the electric vehicle through the green license provision. Like several studies have found the positive impact of electric vehicle positive impact of green license provision on the electric vehicle adoption across nations. So next one is the charging infrastructure development. So charging infrastructure development basically not only the development of the charging infrastructure, this also includes the investment of government in the research and development of the charging infrastructure technology or battery storage technology. Then research and development support for whole EV ecosystem, like providing the EV charging, EV testing track and so on. Then the creation of scrappage and recycling ecosystem, like many government are providing the incentive on the scrappage of their old conventional vehicle, and also there is a need for a recycling ecosystem. Like if individuals are adopting more and more electric vehicles, there could be more and more bad e-waste. So there is a need for recycling ecosystem. And next one is the skill development. So now I am coming to the adoption of electric vehicle in the context of Bihar and India. So basically the trend line between both are same, like both are following the same trend line as discussed. So as discussed earlier, like in Bihar, Bihar is leading the market in the eastern India, but then it is notably different from the India. Like in India, the two-wheeler markets are leading the it is showing that after. Okay, sorry. So the electric vehicle market of Bihar is particularly dominated by the three-wheelers e-rickshaws, and three-wheelers account including three-wheelers and two-wheelers, that accounts for 99% of the electric vehicle market share in the context of Bihar, while in the context of India that accounts for two-wheelers are leading the market. But and Bihar has recently launched their EV policy that includes the financial incentives, non-financial incentives in line with the FAME. Then the charging infrastructure development, then creation of recycling, scrappage and recycling ecosystem, and there is the entrepreneurial support to the startup founders. Like there is one scheme in Bihar, like Chief Minister CM ST entrepreneurship scheme, like that provide the seed funding to the startup founders. So there is a provision of 9.5 lakh seed funding for EV assembling plant. as well. So what is the way forward for the Bihar electric vehicle? Though the Bihar EV share in India is growing, but still at the bottom level. And however, there is a strong and clear policy support remains and state at central level to foster energy transition through promoting clean transportation. So Bihar can provide financial incentive to charging stations to promote the use of renewable energy sources. Like there are states like Assam or Andhra Pradesh is promoting the use of the solar panels at the charging stations, and the switching renewable energy sources to power electric vehicles has a potential to significantly cut emission from the transportation industry. And there is a need for a strategic plan for disposal of the EV related e-waste, like as the demand for the batteries and the other electronic components is rising along the use of the electric vehicle. And there is also need for strategic support to establish manufacturing facility as well as the business model innovation. And EV, what I have found, like while talking about the consumers, like there is a very minimal awareness among the consumers. Like the government of India has launched the e-Amrit portal, or there is Switch Delhi portal launched by the Delhi government, and there are several portals have been started by several state governments. But Bihar also need to one that can promote awareness among the individuals. Thank you. We'll happy to take questions and suggestions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shomen. And now I invite Nishikan from the Just Transition Center of IIT Kanpur. It's just remove the cables and connect it. Yeah, both cables.
So I have been waiting to get it. Oh, all right. Good afternoon. Sorry, I have been being the last speaker for the entire workshop. I have been. Yeah, we have another session, but yeah, as a presenter. So yeah, I have been speaking for so long since yesterday that when will I get a chance to, speak? But I first of all I would like to thank DST CPR and NISER Bhubaneswar and Professor Das for giving me this opportunity to be here among all these esteemed colleagues, research eminent scholars, and such a seasoned bureaucrats we get to hear yesterday. So I was wondering, everybody has talked everything from different perspective, which is very important and also required in this kind of exercise. But I was wondering, as a student of social science, how do I slide into this conversation? So when everybody, like bureaucrats, policymakers, scientists, economies, and everyone look at energy transition from different perspectives, I, as a student of social science, I look energy transition as a social change, and it is going to be huge change. And then I also look into how the people who are going to involve in this particular kind of change, how do they understand and look at this certain shifting away from fossil fuel to more renewable and more environmentally sustainable economy or the energy system. So I kind of, this is a simple exercise on trying to understand how like trade unions as a stakeholder or as an actor in the fossil fuel industries, how do they understand or how do they even look at this transition? This is a simple exercise. We have conducted a simple study on trade unions in coal industry in India, especially the mining and power plants. So this is, I will be very brief and very quick. So first I would like to set the context of my study. So now energy transition as a word or as a phenomena has already taken a center stage in the global development pathways, and then but due to the differences in capabilities and energy demands between the global north countries and the global south, we have to we are compelled to adopt diverse paths. but the global south and also some countries in the global north, their huge dependency on fossil fuels such as like coal in our country, it creates a dilemma in a country like ours, that how will we transition from this sector of the this system of economy to the other sector. So the question is, it's a big dilemma for all the global south countries, with all the pressure which is coming up from the that seasoned bureaucrat was mentioning about the political pressures in the international geopolitics and all. So the question is, what will be the impact of energy transition in the global south? So in order to understand, but I will just a disclaimer that I'll be using energy transition in synonymous with just transition or just energy transition. So I look at from that perspective. So energy transition or just energy transition has been studied from a different perspective. The concept has been evolving in various aspects as a result for the multidisciplinary engagement. The concept has been understood in multiple ways by various groups such as policymakers, activists, labor unions, and also the academic researchers. But first, I would like to understand the first understanding of this concept is it is looked at as an integrated framework of justice, where many scholars have looked into it. So by expanding the concept of justice beyond the workers' agenda of just transition, various scholars and activists have looked at through the lens of integrated justice framework. And this kind of body of literatures which talk about justice, they also recognize the four tenets of justice which connect the issues of environmental, climate, and energy justices, such as distributive justice, procedural, recognition, and restorative. And secondly, they also look this as a theory of socio-technical transitions, in which it is situated at the conjunction of processes at three levels, that is the landscape, which is the geopolitics level, regime, and the niche innovation, which is my friend has just pointed out about innovation about EVs and all this. And also they have looked at, many people have looked at this concept from the perspective of public policy framework, especially in the context of decarbonization. And the third, due to its origin of the concept, the just transition, one of the processes many scholars have looked at is from the lens of a labor perspective. And this approach actually links the process of this approach actually links the process of decarbonization with the economic impact on the fossil fuel dependent workers. So so my study actually, sure, I'll be very quick. So my study actually is aligned to the last perspective of labor-oriented approach, which also people call it as a historical approach. So why trade unions and just transition? So trade unions are important. Huh? Yeah. So we all know that. I will just jump to the this findings. So trade unions are important. They are most important stakeholders. They kind of legitimately represent workers in the fossil fuel sector, especially coal, and they have a strong presence. And with such a strong bargaining power, they cannot be ignored as one of the actors in the policy dialogue. So the study, the objective of the study is to seek the answer of these questions. So I was asking about what does just transition mean for the coal unions in India, and what kind of strategies union can adopt to ensure the justice for the workers, especially coal workers, and then what kind of opinions do they have in the upcoming renewable energy sector. So this is an overview of the coal industry in India. As we all know that coal industry has a huge dependency in terms of economics, especially coal dependent regions are, they depend totally on coal industry for various reasons. And there's a methodology. I have conducted in-depth interview and from labor union representatives which are present, like 5 central labor union representatives which are present strongly in coal industry. And these are the findings I got. Something is very interesting. I was trying to understand, are these trade union leaders climate deniers, or do they also, how do they understand the word climate change? So it depends on the level of union leaders. At the national level, people who have participated in the COP and be a part of ILO, who reads a little bit, they understand from the kind of discourse we are having right now. They can connect to the points, they can connect the dots. But as I go down to the union leaders at a firm level, their understanding of climate change and energy transition is all to their immediate experience in the mining region. Let's say they think climate change is all about pollution. So it's like the water pollution or the kind of diseases they get because of the pollution and like that. So, and again, we all know that in India, coal unions or trade unions, to some or the other, in one or the other way, they are all inclined towards a political party or certain political ideologies. So depending on that, there is a contested view on just transition. So the more I move towards the people on the left, they are being very suspicious. They talk about it's the imposition from the West, and West has to pay, and then sometimes they also talk about common but differentiated responsibilities, like that. But there's a desire among all these people that how do we define this concept of just transition, which they think is coming from the West, to suit the Indian context, to suit the kind of transition we are going to go. And yes, and for them, procedural justice, I find, I mean, it is the form of justice they want. They want to participate. They want to be a part of the policy dialogue and put their points. And again, regarding the renewable energy sector, they have a different opinion. Like say, unions, let's say Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh. So they kind of agree with whatever the state government has taken, the kind of policy, because they are also like sister organization to the ruling party now. And some people say they should not go for privatization, because otherwise if we privatize everything and then energy security, where will be the energy security? We will not be able to access affordable energy and all these things. And now what they all say is we should start diversifying the economy in the coal regions from now onwards. When we have a target to achieve net zero by 2070, or phase down or move away from fossil fuels such as coal. So they want government to make some kind of policies which bring in different industry, more sustainable, and also can be employed, can generate many employment in the mono-industrial setup like coal regions. And they have a bit apprehension about now in private sector, some sectors they are not able to unionize the workers in certain sectors in private industry. So if we privatize, everything is coming up in private sector, then how will we unionize? So they think that workers' justice will be crushed. And the thing is, the conversation around energy transition and just transition is quite at a very primary and very nascent level. So it has to go much beyond this boardroom, or also include people like this. So I think, and there is no serious interaction with, like in the West, in Germany, in South Africa, and there are good like cases about pollen, and also some cases in Appalachian coal mines in Wyoming and I forgot the name of the coal reason in America, which is undergoing energy transition. Utah is there, and Colorado is one of the examples. So they have proved successful examples of unions being a part of the transition process or policy making process. So it is all because unions are sensitized and aware of what kind of things we are going through. We have to how things are moving. So those things are important. But what I feel is all this transition and everything is all as a result of it's a successful bargaining strategies from an environmentalist kind of point of view, that we have to save this environment, we have to reduce this carbon emission and everything. But from the workers' world, there is always a dilemma of job versus environment. So in order to address that dialectics between jobs versus environment, we need a serious engagement with the environmentalists and the workers' world. So then come up with a certain strategy where we can go together hand in hand, where workers are also ensured about their justice, and also at the same time we get more sustainable environmental practices. And so for them I conclude consultation of unions at various institutional mechanisms is imperative, because justice, they think, is of being part of the planning process, and they can be a major facilitator of the transition, or they can be big resistance to the whatever is going to happen. So we need to involve them. And seriously, the unionism in India, in order to be a part of this energy transition process as one of the most important stakeholders, they need to revisit their collective bargaining strategies. The collective bargaining strategies they have right now, it is totally dependent on the industry management. When certain decisions are taken, they bargain like that. They wait for the decisions to be taken and they go for bargaining. But that is not going to work out for a very more of an inclusive planning process. So that's it from my side. I'm done with it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nishikant. I think we got point of view when we think about just transition. So I think I will not be able to take up questions. We'll have the discussion during lunch. But in the afternoon, now we have got with us Dr. Jugal Kishore Mahapatra, the former Chief Secretary of Odisha, who will basically tell us the governance challenges that actually we will be facing for energy transition. And we also have with us the Additional Secretary of Energy Department, Ms. Lipsa Das. Again, since we have with us Professor Grover from Atomic Energy Commission, so they will all provide actually the perspective actually how we go ahead actually for the energy transition. Because we have over 2 days, we have already heard different perspectives, starting from the energy scientists to the policymakers and to the industry leaders. So we'll try to actually synthesize it and we try to find out actually what will be our future. Okay. So let us break for lunch and we come back at 2:30 and we'll have the concluding session there. Yeah, let us go to the cafeteria for lunch. Thank you so much.